At my mother's birthday brunch, I stepped onto the patio with my children dressed in their finest clothes. My father fixed his gaze on me and said, "You shouldn't have shown up." I didn't utter a single word. I simply turned around with my kids and left. An hour later, my sister rang. "Why did you freeze the account? Mom's in tears." I was so stunned I could hardly breathe. My father had never spoken to me that way before, never like that. Not in front of my children, not on my mother's birthday. We had only just crossed the threshold, me balancing a covered casserole in one arm while my youngest clung to my other hand. The boys wore matching pressed shirts, their hair slicked down neatly. They had tried so hard to look presentable. We had even stopped at the florist that morning to pick up Mom's favorite lilies. It was meant to be a sweet surprise. I spotted her first, my mom, arranging paper plates on the outdoor table, laughing with my sister beside the barbecue. Everything appeared ordinary. Balloons tied to the railing. A cheerful happy birthday banner strung above the glass door. Soft music drifting from a portable speaker. It felt like every other family get-together. For a fleeting moment, I wondered if I had imagined the tension. Maybe this year would finally be different. Then my father approached. He didn't smile. Didn't glance at the boys, just stood there, hands buried in his pockets as if he'd been rehearsing this confrontation. And then he delivered it. "You shouldn't have shown up." My lips parted, but no sound escaped. My children looked up at me, puzzled, waiting for me to respond, to fix it. My eldest gripped the little gift bag he'd decorated himself. It held a candle and a card he'd labored over the night before, asking me how to spell thankful. The quiet stretched on forever. I turned away, no scene, no shouting. I just walked back to the car with the boys following, still trying to make sense of it all. We drove off with the casserole still warm on my lap and their presents untouched. I didn't even bother pulling into the garage when we reached home. Just parked in the driveway, sat motionless, staring at the steering wheel while the boys went inside. They were the only ones who didn't demand an explanation. An hour later, my sister called. I let it ring, then the text arrived. "Why did you lock me out of the account?" I was crying. I had shared my Amazon login with her 5 months earlier so she could order supplements and a few basics. She ended up charging more than $2,500 on scented candles, luxury lotions, and decorative cushions. I never complained, not until that moment. They had no warning. They assumed I'd feel ashamed, that I'd cave as usual, shed a few tears, apologize, beg to know what I'd done wrong, but I didn't. This was the final time I'd allow them to treat me like a stranger in my own family. The messages began flooding in less than an hour after we got home. I was still at the sink, scrubbing the scent of cinnamon streusel and charcoal smoke from my fingers when my phone buzzed. It was my sister. First text, "Why did you lock me out?" Second, "Mom's crying, she says you destroyed her birthday." Then came the guilt trip. "What's wrong with you? You didn't even speak, you just walked away." The kids looked so lost. "Dad said you were overreacting." Again, not one of them acknowledged what he'd said to me. Not a single person repeated the words that crushed the last fragment of hope I'd carried. "You shouldn't have shown up." Apparently that wasn't the issue. The issue in their minds was me leaving, quietly, without the explosion they could weaponize later. I refused to hand them the drama they craved. I gave them silence and it unraveled them. I didn't reply. Instead, I curled up on the couch with the boys. They were munching on microwave popcorn and watching a show about astronaut puppies. My youngest rested his head on my arm and murmured, "Grandpa was unkind, but I still love Grandma, just not today." That almost shattered me. I pressed a kiss to his hair and said nothing. They were the only ones who didn't force me to justify myself. I hadn't even intended to block Mom's access at first. I'd let her use the account for 5 months. She claimed she needed a diffuser and some daily vitamins. I told her go ahead. I wasn't monitoring every purchase, just trusting her to be fair. But she was. She bought high-end candles, silk pillowcases, extravagant bath salts, a set of premium knives she'd never touch, and 3 kinds of collagen peptides. I tallied it up, $2,587.43, all on my card. And I still would have let it slide. I swear I would have, if not for that instant on the patio. So I locked her out, revoked her login, erased her saved address, removed the card on file, and then I sat staring at my laptop, pulse racing, and realized something monumental. They relied on me far more than they'd ever admit. For 4 years, I'd been covering their utility bills, silently, They never asked outright, they simply expected it. Mom would casually mention the power bill was overdue, and suddenly I was sending money. Dad always left envelopes stacked unopened. Half their online services were linked to my email because I was the only one who remembered passwords. I logged into each portal and terminated every auto payment. Water, gas, electricity, internet, all severed in under 5 minutes. That was when everything changed. Not just the rage or the heartbreak, but the understanding that I didn't have to keep doing this. I didn't owe them ease. I didn't owe them stability. They wanted to push me out like an outsider. Then they could figure out how to survive without the daughter who kept their world running. It began the next morning just before 10. I was helping my youngest glue cotton ball clouds onto a cardboard spaceship when the shift in power truly started. Only this time it wasn't in my home. 3 missed calls, all from my sister. Then the first voicemail. "Liz, this is ridiculous. Mom can't get into Amazon anymore. What did you do?" Then another, sharper. "Are you seriously this vindictive? She said one thing and you're acting like she torched the place. Grow up." Then the third arrived with a shaky chuckle. "The internet just died during Mom's book club Zoom. Dad's losing it. He tried rebooting but couldn't even locate the router." I played that message twice. They still had no idea what was unfolding. They were confused, scrambling, convinced this was just another outburst I'd get over. But they'd never functioned without me managing everything in the background. They didn't realize how deeply I'd been woven into their daily lives. By 2 that afternoon, I received the first real indication they were waking up. A text from my mom, 4 words. "Did you cancel everything?" No punctuation. No context, just that. It didn't sound like her usual voice. It sounded afraid, vulnerable. I didn't reply. 2 hours later, the gas company must have contacted them because another message arrived. "We have no hot water now. What will the boys think of you when they grow up?" That one I screenshotted, just to remember why I was doing this. She wasn't worried about showers. She wasn't worried about her grandchildren. She was worried about her reputation, about control, about losing her family doormat. And just when I thought they couldn't sink lower, she added another. "You've been unbalanced since Jason passed. We all said it. You're only proving us right." I didn't scream. I didn't break down. I didn't answer. I just sat at the kitchen table staring at those words while my kids raced around the backyard wielding cardboard swords and sporting ketchup mustaches. I watched them laugh. I watched them be unburdened. I never wanted this fight. But they started it. They weaponized my grief, my kindness, my quiet nature. So yes, I terminated the utilities. Yes, I blocked Amazon access. Yes, I guaranteed their inboxes would overflow with overdue notices they couldn't manage. Because for once they would sit in the unease they'd forced me to endure for years. And I wasn't done. By the 3rd day, the full storm broke. My sister left 3 voicemails in 20 minutes. I didn't listen at first. I was busy helping my eldest measure chocolate chips for a school bake sale. He insisted on no walnuts because Grandpa always picks them out anyway. He giggled when he said it, but I could tell he understood something had changed. Even he stopped asking when we'd visit again. Around 5, the landline rang. Nobody uses that number except bill collectors, but this time it was a local prefix from Mom and Dad's area. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later, a new message appeared. I played it on speaker, expecting more pleading, more crocodile tears. It was Mr. Carlson, Dad's neighbor. He sounded shaken. Said water was pouring down their driveway into the street. Said someone had opened the outdoor faucet and left it running. Apparently the pipes burst when the gas shut off and the water heater failed. The entire crawl space was flooded. I sat down and replayed it. That was when I noticed something odd. Dad hadn't called me once, not a single time. Mom and my sister were spiraling, but he remained quiet. He hadn't even sent a text. I checked my email on a hunch. One new notice from the power company. The saved card had been declined twice. Service disconnection pending in 24 hours. It would be so simple to fix. One click, but I didn't. Instead, I opened a hidden folder I'd kept on my laptop for years. Screenshots, old messages, notes I'd jotted after every holiday meltdown, every time they labeled me hysterical. Every time Mom belittled me in front of the boys. Every time they made me feel like nothing more than the grieving widow with baggage. I hadn't planned to use it until my sister sent one last message that night. "You know he's ill, right? He has a scan next week. But I guess you don't care. That stopped me cold. I didn't know, nobody told me. I stared at the screen for ages, unsure if it was truth or another manipulation. But something inside me wavered just a little. So I did something I hadn't done in forever. I called my father. It rang 5 times, then went to voicemail. I was about to end the call when someone answered, but it wasn't him. It was my mom. She sounded eerily composed. "We were waiting for you to crack," she said, "and here you are." Then she hung up. That's when it hit me. They weren't panicking because their lives were crumbling. They were panicking because they realized they no longer controlled me, and now they were trying a different angle. But it was too late. They'd mistaken my quiet for fragility. They forgot silence can also mean strategy, and I had strategies. The morning after that call, I stayed in bed longer than usual. The boys had poured their own cereal and were watching cartoons on low volume. They sensed I needed space, and I was thankful for their intuition. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything. About Jason. About how he used to say, "You don't owe anyone peace if they keep setting your house on fire." I finally understood. By noon, Mom and my sister shifted tactics again. This time it was pity. Mom sent a long paragraph about how exhausted she was, how difficult life had become since I cut her off, how Dad wasn't well. Then came a photo. Dad on their porch wrapped in a blanket, staring into the distance like he was already gone. It might have worked 2 weeks earlier. I might have rushed over, sobbed, begged for reconciliation. But not now. Instead, I did what I should have done years ago. I contacted every utility and had the accounts fully removed from my name. No freezes, no lingering balances, completely severed. I told the representative to delete my email and number from every record. It felt liberating spelling out my mother's full legal name and saying, "She'll have to create her own accounts now." Then I signed into Amazon one final time, printed every receipt of her purchases, and sealed them in a large envelope. No letter, no explanation. I drove to their house and left it in the mailbox. As I pulled away, I saw the curtain twitch. That night, my sister tried one more time. "You really don't care, do you? You'd let your own father die just to make a point. Hope you feel strong now." I didn't reply, because I knew something she didn't. The boys and I had been invited to spend the weekend with one of Jason's old Army brothers and his wife. They lived 3 hours away in a peaceful lakeside town. The kids were already packing swim trunks and Monopoly. I needed to be around people who understood real kindness, people who didn't view my pain as a flaw, people who didn't treat my help like a monthly subscription. I powered off my phone. We left at dawn. As we drove out of the city, my youngest gazed out the window and asked, "Mom, are we never going back to Grandma?" I said no. He nodded, "Good." She didn't even look at my card. It stung, but it also felt like the end of a chapter. That was the last I heard from any of them. It's been 4 months. No calls, no messages, nothing from Mom, my sister, or Dad. Just pure empty quiet. At first I thought the silence would ache more, that I'd miss them. That guilt would gnaw at me in the still moments after the boys were asleep, when the kitchen was clean and the house settled. But it didn't. The quiet felt pure. What surprised me was who did reach out. 2 weeks ago, a text came from an unknown number, one sentence. "You were right to leave." No name, no context. I stared at it for nearly an hour before typing, "Who is this?" No response. The next day, I remembered the envelope I'd left at their house, the one with Mom's receipts. I recalled slipping in one extra receipt that wasn't hers. A $46 charge my sister made months ago, an online course called Surviving Narcissistic Parents. I never asked her about it. I never let on that I'd seen it. Now I wonder if she sent that message. A week later, an envelope arrived in my mailbox. No return address. Inside was a photograph of Jason I'd never seen before. He was sitting on a bench somewhere dusty and bright, sun on his face, grinning with a warm soda in his hand. Taped to the back was a note in tiny script. "He always said you were the toughest of us. You just hadn't realized it yet." I still don't know who sent it. Maybe one of his squad mates. Maybe someone who heard the story. But it landed like a period at the end of a sentence I'd been writing for years. As for my parents, I don't know if they ever got the power restored. I don't know if they found another fixer. I don't know if Dad kept that scan appointment. Or if Mom ever figured out how to buy her supplements without me. And I've stopped caring. What I do know is this. I'm no longer in the family chat. I'm no longer the emergency contact. I'm no longer the one they call when the sky falls. And I've never felt lighter. The boys and I are thriving. We laugh louder. We sleep deeper. We don't tiptoe anymore. And one day I'll tell them everything, not to poison them against anyone, but to show them what it looks like to finally choose yourself. Because the strongest revenge isn't destruction. It's disappearing so completely they can't even find you to plead. And I'm already gone. The first update came 8 days after the photo of Jason arrived. I thought the storm had finally passed. The boys were back to school, I was resting better, and our home had that gentle rhythm that only settles after turmoil ends. Then came the knock. It was a Thursday morning just past 7. I was flipping waffles while the boys debated which syrup was the official waffle syrup. I barely registered the sound over their chatter. 3 slow knocks, not rushed, almost courteous. I opened the door expecting a package. But the porch was empty. Only a small box remained. Plain brown wrapping, no labels, no sender. I carried it inside, half expecting some petty jab from my mother. But it was too compact for theatrics. It rested lightly in my hand. When I opened it, I forgot how to breathe. Inside was my wedding ring. The one I lost 2 years ago during that nightmare plumbing flood that forced us into a rental. I was certain it had fallen into a drain or been tossed with the trash. I searched for weeks. I even quietly blamed the housekeeper for months before giving up. And now here it was, nestled in a tiny velvet bag, pristine, as if it had been waiting patiently. No note, no hint, nothing. I checked the porch camera. Whoever left it knew exactly where to stand to stay out of frame. It was like they understood my routines, my blind spots, even my morning timeline. I held the ring for a long time before locking it away. At first I thought maybe someone from Jason's unit found it somehow. Maybe it passed through many hands before returning to me, but something felt recent, too polished, too deliberate. And now I can't shake the sensation that someone is lingering at the edges of my life. Someone who knows what I've done, what I escaped. Someone who isn't finished speaking. I don't know who they are, but I think they're drawing nearer.